The anime starts with these weirdos carrying this poor guy to drop him off the cliff into the sea. It turns out that his father is the leader of this cult, and he wants to drop his son into the sea for the 3 days so he can overcome death and be the next leader.
Bruh.
The father tells his to believe in their god and sends him straight to the water. While submerging, Yukito remembers all his life and wishes to be reincarnated in the world without gods and religion. Then he wakes up with this girl trying to help him with a very questionable method. Yukito asks Aruaru where he can find the guild, but she doesn't understand what he is talking about, and instead he's sent to help the village with crops. He meets 2 guys, and one of them tells him that he needs help and gives him a knife. To his surprise, he must cut grapes. After he finished, they say him that it's too much for them, but Yukito manages to make a wine to everyone's surprise. He spends most of the days by drinking wine and having fun. A few days later, Yukito and Roy gets attacked by a horrible CGI monster. And the best decision they made is escape. One day our trio went to a capital. They bought some interesting books, and on the way home they spotted how people killed themselves. Aruaru tells Yukito that in this world you have to die when the country will say you to do it. This country just like Russia, lol. The same night Aruaru comes to Yukito and trying some interesting things. Aruaru shows him the mark on her back and tells that people who are afraid to die by the order or don't want to get this mark and send it to this village. Yukito is shocked to hear this. He decided to give her his necklace as a gift. The next day Yukito finds Roy, who tells him that the guards took away Aruaru and her sister. Yukito runs to the capital and fights the guards but eventually gets stabbed. With his last breath, he asks Mitama, the goddess from his previous world, to help him if she's really exist, and this lowly appears and destroys every guard. Villagers is shocked when they find out that everyone is alive and they decide to drink whole night to celebrate it. In the other room, Aruaru tries to dress up Mitama and asks who is she to Yukito. Mitama tells that she is his goddess and they will be together forever, which makes Aruaru shocked because she thinks that Yukito likes lolis. Shiruriru explains to Mitama that Aruaru loves Yukito, and Mitama tells her to continue helping Yukito. Meanwhile, Yukito asks why does people intend to kill themselves, and turns out that this was established around 100 years ago. When Mitama walks in, Roy immediately falls in love with her, but Mitama quickly rejects him. Yukito asks her how powerful she is, and Mitama tells that she can destroy an army with her power. She tries to show how powerful she is, but something went wrong. It turns out that her power depends on how much followers she has, and in this world she has 0 followers. Yukito understands that he needs a power from Mitama to protect the village or it will be destroyed, and he decides to make a cult and gain a lot of followers in order to make Mitama more powerful, and he gets Roy as her first follower. They try to show her magic in order to gain more followers. In one of such shows, Mitama tells Aruaru that Yukito likes a little ones, and Aruaru decides to make it smaller. Fortunately, Yukito stops her. Unfortunately, they didn't gain new followers during the day. Suddenly, Aruaru comes in and tells that her CGI pet is feeling bad and they don't know what to do. They tried to heal it, but that didn't work. Suddenly, Mitama uses all her power to save the pet but gets exhausted. Luckily, she heals up and gets 2 more followers, Aruaru and Shiruriru. Later, for some reason, they decide to return the guards from the capital with a little change.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
Mitama brings the soldiers who killed the villagers back to life. The captain is named Bertrand, and he was originally a knight belonging to the imperial family. He wants to return to the palace after his resurrection. However, because of the change of gender, the soldiers guarding the gate do not recognize her at all. Hearing that she just came out of the isolation camp, they drive her away in disgust. Bertrand, who has nowhere to go, spends the night alone in the forest, wondering where she should go if she is really abandoned by the imperial family. Just then she meets Roy, who says that Bertrand has a really good figure and approaches her, obscenely seemingly trying to harass Bertrand. This frightens Bertrand, and she wants to attack Roy, but without the king's order she cannot draw her sword and attack ordinary people. Just when Bertrand is desperate, Yukito shows up and beats Roy away. Yukito praises Bertrand as a loyal subordinate, and then taunts that even so the imperial family has still abandoned her. Bertrand doesn't want to admit it, but she knows that Yukito was telling the truth. Just as Bertrand is frustrated, Yukito offers help. He asks Bertrand to join his team, and he promises to give Bertrand a place to stay. Yukito's sincere words and handsome face make Bertrand's heart race. With her face turning red, she agrees to Yukito's invitation. Soon after Mitama, the village's farmland is attacked by monsters, and Yukito appears with Mitama. Mitama confidently summons a sword hidden at the bottom of the sea, asking the villagers to attack the monsters with this sword. However, the villagers are defeated by monsters in an instant, and Yukito can't help but complain that Mitama is as unreliable as ever. At this moment, Bertrand appears handsomely. Faced with the attack of the monster, she draws her sword and attacks, directly bursting out with great power in an instant and cutting poor CGI monster in front of her in half. The villagers around all cheer, and they adore the powerful knight in front of them. Seeing this, both Yukito and Mitama are stunned. Later, Yukito thinks of something and immediately introduces to the villagers that Bertrand is a holy knight of their religious organization, and as long as they are willing to join them, he promises to let Bertrand protect their farmlands from monsters. Although the villagers don't know what the religion is, they still decide to join the organization when hearing that they can be protected as soon as they join Yukito. Meanwhile, the Aruaru sisters is also trying to attract more people to their organization in their restaurant. They announce to customers that from now on, wine in restaurants will only be served to members of the religious organization, and if they want to drink, they must join the organization. In addition, Yukito also uses the knowledge on Earth to design a jar that can preserve food for a long time, similar to the refrigerator on Earth, and everyone who joins the organization can get one for free. Due to the increasing number of the new members, Roy, who is in charge of making the jar, has not slept for 3 days and is very tired. However, as soon as he hears Mitama's orders, he becomes spirited again, and he feels very excited when being abused by Mitama-sama. Besides, Yukito also makes snacks unique to the Earth, the biscuits, and everyone who joins the organization can taste them. He also asks Mitama to use her divine power to massage the organization members, which the villagers enjoy very much. Soon, the number of Mitama's believers has grown to 107. Bertrand's joining and offering benefits to villagers are part of Yukito's plan. In Yukito's opinion, instead of explaining the existence of God to villagers who do not understand God at all, it is better to directly give benefits to those who join the organization. Unlike the previous world in which people join religious organization by faith, he wants to build a religion driven by benefits. As the number of people joining the organization increases, Yukito thinks of a question. How many believers does Mitama need to gain the power to fight the Imperial family? He finds Bertrand to inquire about the Imperial family. When he sees Bertrand, he is a little stunned. Bertrand is wearing a sexy maid outfit, which is completely different from the handsome look she showed before. It turns out that all of this is done by the Aruaru sisters, who are attracted by Bertrand's beautiful face and sexy body, and in order to satisfy their special proclivity, they force Bertrand to wear a maid outfit. But Yukito has a more important thing to do. He asks Bertrand how many soldiers the Imperial family have. Bertrand thinks Yukito wants to rebel, but Yukito tells her that he only wants to protect this village. Bertrand tells Yukito that the strength of the Imperial family does not lie in the number of soldiers they have. The real reason why the Imperial family can take control for long is that they have a team of Archons, which is an elite unit under the direct control of the king. Legend has it that every member of this team is given special powers by the king, and each of them has the power to destroy a mountain. Knights like Bertrand are no match for them at all. After chatting with Bertrand, Yukito immediately finds Mitama and asks her whether she has the power to destroy a mountain. Mitama tells him that as long as there are 10,000 believers, she can do that. Hearing this, Yukito is a bit desperate. He worked hard for so long but only gained more than 100 believers, and he wonders when he will attract 10,000 believers. Yukito finds Bertrand again, and Bertrand is now dressed in strange outfit again by the Aruaru sisters. Yukito approaches Bertrand step by step, which makes her very shy. Just when Bertrand thinks that Yukito wants to humiliate her, Yukito pulls out her sword, saying, "This is just an ordinary sword." It turns out that Yukito saw Bertrand easily defeat the monster with this sword, so he wants to know if there is anything special about this weapon, and whether it can be purchased in bulk, so that he can equip the religious organization with these weapons to fight against the Imperial family. Bertrand tells Yukito that the sword is not as simple as it seems, and that if the user masters the skill of using it, he can cut off everything in this world. But only those who have a certain position in the army of the Imperial family will be given this weapon with special abilities by the king. That is to say, it is impossible to buy this weapon in bulk. Unwilling to admit failure, Yukito then finds Klen and Alora's sister Solurl to inquire about the village. It turns out that there are countless isolation camps in this world, and these isolation camps surround the Imperial city like a human wall guarding the residents of the Imperial city. The total number of villagers in their village is only about 2,000, and even if all of them become Mitama's believers, it is still not enough. Unfortunately, even knowing that there are other villages, Yukito cannot think of a way to increase the number of believers to 10,000 in a short period of time. At night, Yukito is frustrated in the restaurant, and Salurl comes to comfort him. She tells Yukito that if it weren't for him, they would have been killed by the soldiers, and he has already done a lot for them, so he doesn't need to think too much. Salurl's words remind Yukito of his father, who said the same thing when he taught Yukito about the religion. The initial members of his father's cult were basically strong men like martial artists, so they used violence to defeat another cult in a certain town and snatch all the members of their cult. With other means, the number of the cult's member was increased from more than 100 to tens of thousands. His father told Yukito not to think too much, and there were many ways to develop the cult, including occupying their territory. Instantly, Yukito seems to think of a solution. The next day, Clan approaches Yukito and asks if he has thought of a way to fight the imperial family. Yukito asks him, does it matter if he breaks the culture of this world when he uses his way? Roy tells Yukito that the village is characterized by freedom, and if Yukito feels that something must be done, then feel free to do it. After receiving an affirmative answer, Yukito says, let's try it, and see me get this village advanced by 500 years. Soon, a month passes by. During this time, Bertrand patrols the vicinity of the village in strange outfits designed by the Allura sisters every day, in case the imperial family sends people to attack the village. One day, when patrolling, Bertrand meets a white-haired girl named Ater, the archon of the imperial family in the legend. A long time ago, she has been ordered to punish the village that rebels against the end-of-life system. But every time she tries to come to the village, she will be assigned other tasks by an archon named Loki, who seems deliberately to stall for time. Now Ater finally finished other tasks. Ater easily discovers Bertrand's identity using a special ability, and she takes Bertrand, who appears in the village as a rebel, and the two break out a fight. Ater easily defeats Bertrand with her great power, but she doesn't kill her because she decides to find out why Bertrand's gender has been changed. Just as Ater intends to step into the village, she is shocked by the scene in front of her. There are windmills, watering hoses, and even tractors in the village. In Ater's opinion, these moving things are the monsters she has never seen. But why are these monsters carrying humans? We cut back to a month earlier as Yukito tells his friends about his plan to give Mitama 10,000 followers, planning to use Mitama's powers to offer incentives to people to gain more followers. Mitama ends up making harvesting machines to help the villagers with their farming, telling the people they will be allowed to use it if they believe in Mitama. That the people are eager to join, but we see Mitama drained of her power. She ends up recovering thanks to all of her new followers reaching 927. Yukito thinks things are going well, but he wonders what they should do next. Al comes in with a bucket of water, but she slips and ends up spilling it on herself, thinking she needs to go and get more water. But this gives Yukito an idea, and he ends up installing a sink at the restaurant, saying that Mitama will bless all of their believers' houses. Thanks to this, they end up having a pool party to celebrate, and everyone has a good time. But Mitama is exhausted, having been forced to create plumbing and connecting water to all the followers' houses. She manages to recover thanks to even more followers, and she starts to get excited about fighting the Empire. Yukito thinks they still don't have enough followers, so he moves to the next stage of his plan. He brings electricity into the world, allowing people to drink at the bar even at night. It soon spreads across the whole village, and Clan is impressed at the sight, mentioning that even the Emperor wouldn't have a view like this. Bertrand asks how he would know about the Emperor, and Clan reveals he used to work in the Imperial Palace, but he chose to live in the isolation camp instead. Mitama thinks he is weird for his choice, but Clan thinks she is even more interesting, asking to know more about what it means to be a god. Yukito explains there are two types of gods. One is used to explain inexplicable events, and the other is a symbol created by religions. Bertrand thinks that would make their emperor their god, because all phenomena, disasters, and inexplicable events are explained by the assembly that works for the emperor. The next day, Mitama's power surges, as she has over 2,000 followers. Yukito thinks that everyone in their village has been converted, so they need to start converting the other villages. However, Roy suddenly comes in, telling them that Bertrand was attacked and captured. Meanwhile, we see Ataru, as she examines a hose, confused by how Thid works. She interrogates Bertrand about it, but she suddenly gets a message from Loki. She reports about the strange tools, and Loki suggests that only the Emperor or another Archon could create such things, reminding Ataru of the Archon that once betrayed them in the past. Loki tells her to just destroy the village, and Ataru starts torturing Bertrand, but Mitama suddenly appears, causing her to back away. Ataru attacks with an energy blast, but Mitama blocks it by shielding herself with some rocks. Mitama summons a number of plant monsters to attack, but Ataru vaporizes them. Mitama summons even more, and Ataru keeps destroying them, but she eventually gets caught as a bunch of monsters jump onto her, and Mitama follows up by binding her even further. Mitama thinks the fight is over jumping onto Yukito, but there is suddenly a huge explosion as Ataru gets free, revealing her true form. Mitama knows she is running out of power, so she prepares her final attack. She sends her beasts to attack, but Ataru blows right through them. Mitama thinks she is about to lose, but Yukito begs for her to win. Mitama decides to borrow the power of all the other gods because as a primordial god she is able to use any of their powers. She attacks using their powers and Ataru clashes with her, but after a while the gods tell her they have to go, after seeing how few followers she had, and there is an enormous explosion as Ataru's attack lands. Ataru ends up exhausted, but Mitama is defeated, and she starts crying, apologizing to Yukito for letting him down. Their friends come rushing over, but Ataru charges up an attack, preparing to wipe out the village. She throws her attack and it completely wipes out the village. Yukito thinks he failed all of his friends, but there is suddenly a glitch and the damage is reversed. Ataru realizes it was an illusion, and Clint appears, who Ataru recognizes as Loki. Yukito wonders what is going on, and Clint reveals that he never existed, and she is actually the Archon Loki. Ataru wonders why she got in her way, and Loki appears behind Yukito, telling them she wants their help to assassinate the Emperor. Ataru asks why she is betraying them, preparing to eradicate her, but Loki suddenly stabs her from behind, telling her she stands no chance when she is already caught in her illusion. Ataru is restrained and Loki takes them back to the capital. They are taken to meet the Emperor, and Ataru rushes to apologize for her failure, but the Emperor is on phase because everything was foretold. He even knows about Yukito attempting to revive the notion of God and religion. Yukito is shocked the Emperor knows about God, thinking he could also be from another world, but Mitama becomes bored and wanders off. She suddenly destroys a pillar thinking it was controlling Yukito, as she reveals they have been talking to a corpse this whole time. The whole palace suddenly changes, and Loki is impressed Mitama could see the truth. She reveals that they were in a fake space created by the room's facilities. She tells them that the Emperor died a long time ago, and the Empire is being run by the room he created. The room is filled with machines that analyze and control everything to do with the Empire, including the end-of-life system, and do everything to keep the Empire in an unchanging state. Yukito thinks that the technology is even more advanced than is on time, wondering what kind of world they are in. Loki mentions how she has been watching for centuries, but Mitama says that thousands of years ago, the world was once destroyed, but there were a few survivors that rebuilt the land, so it would never meet the same fate again, and they ended up deleting their belief in God. Yukito wonders what she means asking what world they are in, and she reveals they are still on Earth but at a time far into the future, because when he was drowning in the past he wished to be reborn in a world where gods and religion didn't exist. Loki tells Mitama she should destroy the machines wanting to destroy the Empire. Ataru thinks their purpose is to serve the Empire, but Loki is sick of serving a master that is already dead, telling Yukito it would mean the end to the end-of-life system and threats of being attacked by the Imperial Army. But Yukito suddenly attacks her. Loki charges at him with her knife, but he disarms her, realizing she can't use her powers while inside the palace, which is why she needed Mitama's help. Yukito demands to know the real reason she is trying to destroy the Empire, and in a flashback we see Loki as she watches over an end-of-life ceremony. She becomes sick with how the world is, so she looks to find why the Emperor created such a world, but she finds the history of how humans used to be free, as well as the gods they believed in. She wanders about her own existence and starts living among the people in the isolation camps as Clint, finding their lives much more free, and that's when Yukito suddenly appeared. He knew nothing about the world, but he had used strange words and had knowledge about things normal people shouldn't know, like how to make wine, and when he started talking about God he caught her attention. After that she spent most of her time at the village, and Yukito was even able to summon Mitama. One night when Yukito thinks about establishing a doctrine, they wonder what he means, and Yukito explains that a doctrine is something that all the followers would believe, and Clint suggests living freely. Yukito likes his idea, and he decides to go with his idea. He thanks Clint for his suggestion, but Mitama suddenly comes up to him, warning him that Yukito belongs to her, saying that Yukito has a bad habit of attracting girls. Clan wonders what she means by girl, and it turns out Mitama was able to see through her illusion, so she realizes that with Mitama's power she would be able to destroy the Empire. Loki continued with an experiment, going to another isolation camp and showing them illusions to gain followers, and she managed to use her powers without the help of the machines. The Archons were built like gods, so she plans to destroy the Empire and become a real god. Ataru thinks she is mad, but Loki reveals she told her plan to all the other Archons, saying they would become gods, and they all agreed. Yukito agrees with destroying the Empire because he thinks Loki's wish for freedom isn't inherently bad. So he tells Mitama to destroy the palace. The palace is destroyed as an enormous tree emerges, and Loki wonders what Yukito plans to do next. He knows that the Archons will fight among themselves, and their village will eventually get dragged into it, so he plans to make Mitama the true god, saying that fakes won't be able to compete with her. Back at the village, the people celebrate now that they are no longer targets of the Empire, and Mitama is praised for taking out the Empire, but Loki and Ataru are also there. Yukito wonders what Loki wants, but she says she just wants to enjoy a final night at the village with everyone. Roy is surprised that Clan was a girl, and she tricks him with an illusion, swapping physicians with Ricky. Loki decides to head off, not wanting the other Archons to get ahead of her, and she leaves Ataru behind, saying she can no longer use her powers without the Empire's machines. Yuki claims he will do everything to protect the village, and Loki says she will do whatever it takes to become a god. As she leaves, she is stopped by Bertrand, who sees her as a threat, but Loki uses her magic, turning Bertrand back into a man, and he is overjoyed to be back in his original form. However, Loki changes him back, mentioning how she still has powers, so he is no match for her. Bertrand wonders where she is headed, and she reveals she is going back to the capital, but Bertrand decides to follow her. Wanting to stop her from doing what she wishes, the villagers finished celebrating at the bar. But Ataru is left devastated, not knowing what to do with herself. She blames Yukito for destroying the Empire, but he explains he didn't have a choice. He decides to team up with her, telling her that if they defeat all the other Archons, she could absorb their powers and recreate the system and the assembly. Ataru wonders why he would help her, but Yukito says they are up against other Archons, so he could use her help, and he can't just ignore a girl that's crying. He wins her over with some ice cream. But Al watches from a distance, seeing her as competition. The next day, Yukito announces that their religion will have 2 gods. Mitama is shocked hearing this, and her 2,000 followers get divided, with each of them having 1,000. Mitama is devastated, and Ataru uses her power, blowing up a nearby rock. Yukito thinks her fighting ability will come in handy, but Mitama reminds her who's boss. Ataru uses her power to defeat the giant beasts, and the group shows off their meat and alcohol to attract people from other villages. They even bring them back to the village, showing off their technological advancements, and Yukito offers to share everything with them, as long as their village accepts Mitama as their god. And after doing this, Mitama is up to almost 3,000 followers, and we learn they have converted 3 villages, but Mitama gets jealous when she sees Ataru has more followers than her. But she says it's because she is the one defeating the strange beasts. Syl brings up some information she found about a woman named Dakini, who is claiming to be god in another village, and she already has 10,000 followers. Yukito thinks it must be an Archon, asking Ataru about her, but she says she only really had contact with Loki, although she knows that Dakini's power is related to love. Mitama wants to crush her, but Yukito has another idea, saying the best way to take over a religion is to hijack it from the inside. They go over to Dakini's area, and Yukito thinks it looks like a love hotel. They ask to join the religion, and a girl named Risha Pierce introducing herself as one of the branch leaders. She guides them through their facility, and as the other followers see Rish, they think she is the #1 lover, and that she wears her glasses to contain her power. They reach Dakini's chamber, but Rish tells them they can only meet her as a male and female pair. Mitama worries if Yuki will be okay without her, but he says it should be fine. Al thinks their infiltration is going well, but Yukito tells her not to let her guard down. Dakini suddenly appears, mentioning how she has been busy getting so many followers recently. Yuki requests to join, and Dakini easily agrees, mentioning that they just need to do things the way they like and live according to their desires. She takes a picture of them both and just leaves the room. Yukito is suddenly overwhelmed by a strange feeling, and it seems Al has also been affected. Yukito wonders how they were affected by Dakini's powers, and he is overwhelmed looking at Al, but he manages to snap out of it, and there is suddenly an explosion as Roy comes smashing through the wall, and Mitama reveals he tried to make a move on her. Roy runs off after being rejected, and Yukito wonders what they are going to do about the hole in the room. Meanwhile, Dakini tells Rish that the secret joining ritual is complete. Rish prepares to handle the rest, but Dakini warns her that she set their love to berserk mode. As Rish goes to check up on them, she sees Mitama as she is repairing the wall with her powers, but Yukito grabs onto her, warning her not to tell anyone about what she saw. As Yukito threatens her, she is suddenly overwhelmed by a sensation and she passes out. They think about what they should do with her, but she starts crying and reveals she has never actually been with a man. Yukito thinks it's strange considering her position in the group, and Rish wonders why Dakini's power didn't work on them. Yukito explains he has resistance thanks to training from his father, and Mitama was unaffected since she is a god. Hearing that she is a god, Rish begs for their help, actually wanting to destroy the group. Meanwhile, Roy causes a scene running around, but he runs into Dakini, who finds him interesting. Rish explains how her village was taken over by Dakini's sect, and she was unwillingly forced to become a follower. Before she joined, she used to read the forbidden books about lovemaking, so she started making crazy stuff up, and the other followers became convinced she was experienced, even making her one of the branch leaders. She tells them she just liked to read about it but can't stand it in real life, so she wants to get free by destroying this act. Yukito isn't sure he can trust her but thinks she could be useful, so he agrees to help her. Mitama suddenly starts to panic as she sees her follower count dropping. We see the villagers as they try to restrain one of the giant beasts. The beast breaks free, but Syl says they bought enough time, and Ataru uses her powers to blast it and take it out. The villagers praise her, and she feels like her power is getting stronger. Meanwhile, Rish explains how Dakini rotates between each branch of every few days, so it will be a few weeks before she comes back around to their branch. Yukito has a plan, but when he calls for Mitama, she is depressed because her follower count has gotten so low when she was up to around 3,000. But Yukito says it was because she left the village. No matter how much a leader is worshipped, if they leave the group, their followers' belief will waver, but he is surprised at how fast it dropped. Mitama is completely demoralized, but Yukito tells her if she can help him, he will believe in her for real, and he manages to revitalize her power. Meanwhile, in another branch, Dakini spreads her message, gaining even more followers, but she notes that her power doesn't seem to be increasing. She overhears some followers talking about the new items they've obtained to help the love sessions, revealing Rish has been handing them out in her study group. We see Rish as she explains the science behind the human body, telling the followers how to achieve more intense pleasure, even attracting followers from other branches, and she starts to be praised by them. Yukito knows instead of Dakini, who is not always there, the people will tend to follow whoever is around, and thanks to the items summoned by Mitama and his knowledge from the modern world, Rish is able to grow our own faction. Dakini suddenly returns to their branch early, and she confronts Rish about stealing her followers, but Rish claims she was just helping them to better understand her teachings. The followers defend Rish, saying she has done nothing wrong, but Dakini realizes why her powers haven't been growing. She summons her guards to surround them, realizing Yukito is the one who has been influencing Rish. Roy has become lover guard, and he suddenly punches Yukito, revealing that he was converted by Dakini. Dakini holds a trial where she has the four of them restrained. She interrogates Rish about her special study group. Rish suddenly cries as she apologizes for her actions, saying she thought she was being helpful, and she begs to be punished. The other followers are moved by her devotion, and they think she has done nothing wrong, begging Dakini to show mercy, but this was all a part of Yukito's plan. In a flashback, we see that Yukito predicted how Dakini would react, so he coached Rish on how to act, even giving her a script of what to say. Rish continues her performance as she asks for mercy for the followers of her group, and thanks Dakini for taking her in. Everyone has moved to tears, and Dakini is put in a tough position, so she has no choice and is forced to call off the trial. Dakini thinks about losing Rish but decides she doesn't need her as she summons her guards. The group gets thrown into a cell, and Yukito tries to think of a way to escape. He looks over at Mitama, but she is completely out of juice, and at that moment Dakini's guards appear, and Rish explains they are known as purgers and will follow any order that Dakini gives, even if it means taking a life. We are now brought into Dakini's memory. She was created by the early royal family and born with the ability to awaken love. She thought the king was going to use her abilities to increase the population by growing people's desires. However, the king told her that she was not to awaken love, but to restrict human love. The royal family does not rely on pregnancy to have children because they can breed humans artificially. Only when all humans no longer give birth to babies on their own can the royal family control population growth artificially, thus controlling the world. Since then, Dakini had been photographing humans every day with her cell phone. Like Tool, as long as humans were photographed, they would completely lose their desire for love, as well as the ability to have intimate interactions. Thousands of years have passed, and humans have mutated to be a species without love or the ability to give birth. If this continued, Dakini would lose her significance of existence, so she compiled her knowledge about intimate interaction into books, hoping to awaken love hidden in humans' heart. However, humans who had lost the ability to have intimate interaction couldn't understand her books at all, and these books got banned later. Many more years passed, and Dakini found a girl named Toka who liked these forbidden books very much. It turned out that Toka was a very rare person in this world who could fall in love since birth. Dakini also liked Toka very much. The girl lived freely with love, unlike the humans who had lost their vitality and lived like robots. Toka was longing for giving birth to a child, and Dakini believed that it was what humans should be like. Dakini had always been with her growing up. However, the inhabitants of the city hated the girl so much that Toka was eventually banished to an isolated village as an outlier. Since then, Dakini had never seen Toka. It turned out that these inhabitants were bred artificially, and they were afraid of Toka, who always wanted to give birth to children on her own. Years later, by the time Dakini heard from Toka again, she had been killed by the villagers. Dakini was very desperate and vowed to restore the world to its original state. She wants to create a world where humans can fall in love, start a family, and have children. As the memory ends, we are back to the prison where Yukito is kept. As the subordinates sent by Dakini are about to fight against Yukito, Ater along with Solural appears and rescues them. At this moment, the number of Ater's followers has increased to more than 6,000. All of this is Yukito's plan. He deliberately took Mitama away from the village so that the villagers could be attracted to Ater, who is much stronger in the fight. Therefore, Ater will have more followers and gain more power from them. Then it's time for the final attack on Dakini. They soon find where she is and launch an attack. At this moment, Dakini finds Rish holding a book in her hand which used to be Toka's. Just as she is about to ask Rish where the book comes from, she is interrupted by Ater's attack. When Ater and Dakini are fighting, Rish performs other tasks with Mitama, but she is puzzled why Dakini said her mother's name just now. At this moment, the battle between Ater and Dakini has entered a climax, but everyone underestimates Dakini's strength. She has already absorbed more than 14,000 followers during the battle, and knocks down Ater easily after transformation. Later, Dakini infects them with uncontrollable lust. As the three girls approach and hug Yukito tightly, the ground suddenly cracks, and the tentacles of many plants stretch out to separate them. The next moment, Mitama and Rish show up. Just now, Rish told the believers in the organization that Mitama is the real god with advanced knowledge of intimate interactions, and she will not only teach everyone new knowledge, but also give believers more tools. With her prestige in the organization, Rish formed a new faction, which caused many followers of Dakini to turn to Mitama. Thus, Mitama once again gained powerful divine power. Dakini thought that losing some followers would not affect her combat power, only to find her abilities actually disappearing. It turns out that Mitama remembered that among the gods she knew there was also a god named Dakini. She deduced that this Dakini was just the Archon of this world, who could only borrow her power from the real god, so she traveled to the world of the real god Dakini and begged her to reclaim the power of the Archon. The real god also felt that the recent behavior of Archon Dakini in making the believers go on an intimacy spree was a bit excessive, so she promised Mitama to temporarily withdraw Archon Dakini's divine powers. Therefore, even if the current Dakini has a large amount of believers, she cannot use divine power. Dakini finally realizes that something is wrong and tries to escape, but is stopped by Roy at the door. Not long ago in prison, Yukito handed Roy a note saying that as long as he helped the woman when she was in danger, he would win her heart. Roy has always liked Mitama, so he believes that if he helps Mitama stop Dakini, he will reap Mitama's favor. While Roy stops Dakini, Ater attacks and completely defeats Dakini. Though defeated, Dakini still doesn't understand why would she with such strong power fail in the end. Yukito tells her that it is because she is always alone while he has so many partners around. Then Rish finally comes up and asks Dakini how she knew Toka's name, and Toka was her mother. Hearing this, Dakini is caught up in memories that Toka once told her that she wanted to find a man she loved, have a child of her own with him, and let the child become Dakini's best friend. Rish is the child of Toka and the man she loved. At this moment, Dakini awakens and starts her confession. She should not have made humans obsessed with physical pleasure and lose their thinking about love. She shouldn't have abused her abilities to get people caught up in the lust for intimacy, and it's not the world she wants. After that, Yukito tells Dakini to tell her followers that Mitama is now their goddess, but Dakini rejects his offer. Rish comes to her and asks about her mother. Rish tells Dakini that she will help her and leaves. After some time, Rish comes back with Yukito in the leash and frees Dakini, but asks Dakini to give all her followers to Rish. She accepts it, and we learn that it was Rish's plan to get the followers from Dakini. Because Rish believes in Mitama, it means that anyone who believes in Rish will actually believe in Mitama, and after some Seuss training with Yukito, they persuaded Dakini to give all the followers. After this, everyone heads back to the village. When suddenly they are attacked by the CGI monsters, Ater easily defeats it, and we learn that she has more than 11,000 followers, which is more than Mitama has. Suddenly, a lot of CGI monsters appear, and Ater can't defeat them all. Luckily, thanks to Mitama, they saved. The monsters destroyed the village, but everyone left alive. Yukito asks Mitama to restore the village with her power, but she doesn't want to lose all her power again and she refuses. But after Yukito, Ater, and everyone in the village asks her to do it, she agreed. She restored the village but left powerless. In the distance, we see Antor Archant, named Gaia, who can control the CGI monsters, but to her surprise, they attacked her instead. While celebrating, one of the villagers comes in and says that Roy was attacked by the CGI monsters. Ater easily defeats the beast, and it turns out that Roy was carrying Gaia with him when he tried to make a CPR, but she kicked him and said that she don't like him at all. Ater comes to her, and suddenly something that I can't show on YouTube happened. She introduces herself and tells that she can control the CGI beasts, and Yukito instantly attacked her. She begs him to stop and tells that she didn't want to destroy the village, and later on we learn that she only has 2 followers. Gaia tells that she wants to destroy Loki, who is now in the capital. They all went to the capital, and surprised to see that even here Trump built a wall. Gaia uses her power to create a bird to show that anything that will cross the wall will be destroyed. Suddenly a black knight appears, and we learn that this is Bertrand. Loki appears near Yukito, and he instantly attacks her, but this doesn't work. She explains that now she has more than 1 million followers, but Yukito laughs at it and tells that it's not so much. He leaves and tells her if she had attacked them, she would have died. But back at the village, he tells everyone that he bluffed. Bertrand explains that Loki Probaby used his power to make everyone think that the Emperor is alive. Thus, everyone started believing Loki, thinking his illusion is the Emperor. Yukito tells that to defeat Loki, he will make Mitama an idol.
What? I'm out, man.
Under Yukito's arrangement, it doesn't take long for the world's first band to be formed, and it soon gains a large number of fans. The lead singer of the band is Alora, and the other members are Ater Solaral and Gaia, who recently came to the village. Mitama feels that she is cute and is more suitable to be the lead singer, and she complains that Yukito does not let her participate in the band. The next moment, she finds that her divine power has increased, but the number of her followers is still the same. Yukito tells her that he has discovered that the divine power of the gods has a lot to do with the cohesion of the entire religion, in addition to the number of followers. There is no music in this world, and the appearance of the band greatly enriches people's entertainment life, which is why the band can attract fans so quickly. An interesting incident happens during the formation of the band. Bertrand wants to become the guitarist in the band, but because of her poor talent in music, she is rejected by Yukito. Bertrand is saddened that she fails to help them, and Yukito comforts her, saying that even if she can't do anything, she is an indispensable person in the organization. Now Yukito wants to ask Bertrand to do something. Bertrand is moved by Yukito and immediately promises him that she will do whatever he wants. Yukito then asks her to follow Gaia secretly. Gaia is a new member of their organization, and Yukito still feels uneasy about her. When tracking Gaia, Bertrand discovers that Gaia always deliberately approaches some children and tries to trick them into visiting her home. However, she uses so low-level methods to deceive the children that they all despise her or are scared away. Later, Bertrand finds out that Gaia has come to a nearby house where 5 young children call her mother, and they have a very good relationship. Bertrand tells Yukito about this, and Yukito immediately guesses that it is Gaia's religious organization. The smallest form of religion is a family. The different lifestyles of each family can be regarded as special rituals of religion, and the head of the family is the leader. Yukito does not want such a formidable opponent hidden around him, so he decides to destroy Gaia's religious group. To do this, he has to find someone to help. The next morning, when Yukito is waiting for the person to appear, Bertrand suddenly hugs him and begins to undress him, intending to do something shy with him. It turns out that this is all done by Dakini, who deliberately controls Bertrand to tease Yukito. Fortunately, Riche appears in time to stop Dakini from controlling Bertrand, and Bertrand immediately flees shyly. Because of Riche, Dakini reconciles with Yukito. The reason why Dakini shows up here is that Yukito asked Riche to bring her here. Yukito wants to use Dakini's ability to control people's minds to snatch Gaia's family. Dakini doesn't want to agree at first, but Yukito tells her that Gaia is likely to be using these children, and if they lose their value, the innocent children will be abandoned. Dakini thinks of the innocent children of the Imperial City and finally agrees to Yukito's request. So they start their plan. Yukito and Mitama find an excuse to stall Gaia, making her unable to return home for the time being. Dakini takes advantage of this time to approach several children in Gaia's family, but instead of using her ability to control people's minds, she makes the children like her with her actions, and with her efforts, 3 children are fond of her. Unfortunately, there are 2 slightly older children who are very wary of Dakini. Gaia once told the 2 children not to approach any strangers. Dakini wants to persuade the 2 children to play with her. Unexpectedly, the next moment these 2 children summon monsters. Since Dakini transferred all the followers to Rish with Dakini's divine power, now she cannot fight these monsters at all. Dakini immediately flees with 3 children. One of the children who summoned monsters to attack them, a little girl, is named Cyan. Just then a memory flashes through Cyan's mind. In this world, humans were created by the Imperial City. Cyan grew up in such an environment, and her parents treated her very well. She thought she was living a happy life, but one day her parents were taken to undergo the end-of-life system. She didn't want to lose them, so she rebelled, which made her parents feel ashamed. In the end, Cyan was sent to the isolation camp. Only then did she realize that her parent took care of her only to complete the task assigned by the king, and they didn't love her at all. On her way to the isolation camp, she was attacked by monsters, and it was Gaia who saved her and promised to let her live in a perfect family. It gave Cyan hope, and she vowed to protect her family. Cyan's memory ends here. When she catches up with Dakini, the monsters are already defeated by Yukito and his companions. Yukito has already guessed that something might happen, so he heads to support Dakini with others. At this moment, the ground suddenly shakes and Gaia appears. Cyan thinks Gaia comes to save her and immediately throws herself into Gaia's arms. Unexpectedly, the next moment Cyan falls into the ground, and Gaia stops smiling, saying that the family game is over. Suddenly a very large monster appears nearby, which is created by Gaia. This monster is so powerful that Ater can't cause damage to it. Luckily, at the critical moment, the Allura sisters drive a truck to leave with Yukito and the others together. This monster is named Typhon. Although it took many years to create Typhon, as long as it is created, it will be completely loyal, and it doesn't need much divine power to control it. While Yukito is thinking about how to defeat the monster, part of the monster's body suddenly emerges from the ground and crashes into the truck. This monster is tens of thousands of meters long. Just now Yukito falls from the truck and is later pierced by the monster. Seeing this, Mitama rushes to him, but both of them are bitten apart by the monster. The others flee back to the village, and just when they all think that Yukito and Mitama are dead, Allura's necklace glows. The next moment, a hallucination of Mitama appears, telling them that she and Yukito are not dead and are now trapped in the body of the monster. Although the monster is very powerful, they still decide to find a way to rescue Yukito. At this moment, Yukito has woken up, and Gaia transforms from a little girl into a sexy woman, which is a fighting form of the Archons. She tells Yukito that she has tried to kill him 300 times, but each time he was revived by Mitama, whose divine power is almost exhausted. Gaia tells Yukito that she is now going to wipe out Loki's religion in the Imperial City. Gaia has lived in this world for a long time. Before the royal family showed up, Gaia's mother created a cult. To satisfy her desire, she even consolidated her position by hurting Gaia, which kept Gaia living in pain. Until one day she could no longer withstand it. She killed her mother and destroyed the cult herself. Later the royal family appeared, which adopted her and made her into an Archon. Each Archon has a similar tragic experience. Just as Gaia is about to kill Yukito again, she discovers through the eyes of the monster that Yukito's companions have actually set up a stage nearby and are holding a grand concert. She has no idea what these people are doing. Soon she knows the answer. These people hold a grand concert to attract the surrounding villagers to be their fans, and using their worship they can gain more divine power, which strengthens Ater's divine power by several times. Dakini also gains the love of fans at this concert, thus gaining a lot of divine power. Encouraged by Rish, she and Ater launch a fierce attack on the monster Typhon. Unfortunately, Typhon is much more powerful than they thought, and their attacks only slightly stop him from going forward and can't defeat him. So Yukito's companions start up a plan B. Ater gets on the stage holding a microphone, telling her fans that she is very grateful for their support and that she is very happy when getting along with them. But from this day on, she will no longer be a god in the religion, hoping that her followers can believe in Mitama. After listening to Ater, these followers are not very willing to accept this fact. Suddenly Rish tells everyone that after Ater quits her duty as a god, she will serve the followers in the audience. Hearing this, the followers go completely crazy. They no longer reject Ater's proposal and become Mitama's followers. In this way, Mitama gains a large number of followers and greatly strengthens her power, with which she cooperates with Yukito and completely defeats Gaia. As the monster typhon disappears, Mitama shows up in front of everyone with Yukito in her arms. Seeing Yukito, Allura immediately throws herself into his arms, and everyone else shows a smiling face. Next, it is time for the trial of Gaia. A boy who was adopted by her Kai wants to kill her but is stopped by Cyan. Cyan has taken Gaia as her mother. She was very happy with Gaia during this time and felt the warmth of family. So she wants everyone to give Gaia another chance, and she doesn't want this hard-won family to be destroyed again. Gaia is touched by Cyan's words. In the end, she and Cyan hug each other, and Cyan vows to form a real family. After this incident, the villagers hold a banquet to celebrate their victory. Yukito may have thought of his tragic childhood after listening to Gaia's miserable life. However, in order to prevent Gaia from betraying them later, he sends the boy Kai to spy on her. Previously, Yukito discovered that Kai has a crush on Cyan, and the most important reason why Kai is so angry about Gaia's actions is that Gaia hurt Cyan. So Yukito tells Kai that if he wants Cyan to be happy, he must keep an eye on Gaia. When everything is arranged, Yukito discovers that Mitama has 30,000 followers now, which is very strange because the total number of all the surrounding villagers has not reached 30,000. At this time, Yukito falls into Loki's illusion, in which Loki confesses that she used her power to transfer her followers to Mitama, and that she did this to defeat the monster Typhon. Loki's confession is just like she is showing her power, and she seems to tell Yukito that she can control anything at will. Yukito is unflinching, saying that he has thought of a way to defeat her. After Loki disappears. After that, Yukito returns to the real world, and he starts to think of everything that happened recently. He had nothing in his original world, but he met many new companions here who, though strange, are kind, and he is happier than ever before. Seeing his companions, Yukito can't help but think that although this world sucks, it is incredible, and he vows to protect everything in front of him now. And that's where the season ends. Tell me your thought about this anime in the comments. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I will bring more exciting anime in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.